Most players have a, quote, self-image of what their game should look like and what their shots should feel like. But that's a delusion, as 50% of the match is determined by your opponent. Whether you're facing Fabrice Santoro slicing every ball, or Ivo Karlovic kicking the serve above your head, nobody can predict how their game will look under those unique circumstances. That's when the mantra of, quote, I want to play my game, should be followed by, quote, what exactly is my game? The truth is, everything that happens out there, from the good, bad, sublime, or awkward, is all your game. It's similar to your personality, where you may act differently around family, friends, colleagues, or adversaries, but you're still the same person at the core, responding to different environments. So although we've described styles from the perspective of poke, brawl, and dive, the complexity of a match involves a combination of fights being waged on each front. This isn't a perfect example, but imagine you're playing 3 games of chess simultaneously against the same opponent, where the first game to finish determines the winner, ending the other games. Therefore, it's wise to play just well enough to stall your opponent's best boards until you can close out the game you're winning. This is similar to a war general, as winning every battle is not important compared to winning the, quote, strategic battle that forces an enemy to surrender. That's why a tennis match isn't about being better than your opponent at every style and skill, but using your strengths to exploit their weaknesses, making the match about that disparity instead of overcoming your weakness into their strength. This matters because you'll encounter opponents with unmatched strengths, as Karlovic may drop 50 aces and Ferrer will make 100 balls in a row. Beating these respective players on those specific fronts is unrealistic, but being proficient at placing the serve to not get broken or making 10 balls to reliably construct points does not take miraculous talent. In addition, it's guaranteed in any competitive situation that your opponent will do something better. Suppose Federer and Sampras had equally sound serve mechanics. Because Federer has more tools in aggregate, Pete's serve will be superior because his brain will devote all the focus to that area in order to compete as a survival mechanism. Compared to a single front battle like brawl versus brawl, tennis is a multiple front battle that will match your poke, brawl, and dive into that of your opponents. This dynamic causes players to either tunnel vision on the wrong chessboard or divide their attention instead of focusing on the board that will yield the most value. The overall better player may lose if the lesser player yields disproportionate value on the right board. The general correct philosophy is to, quote, match their game just enough to win at yours, to mitigate an opponent's strength through, quote, mirroring. Changes in strategy often fly under the radar, as opponents will not see a noticeable difference in the midst of fancy shot making or athleticism, but the tone of the points will shift, where everything from finishing to making one more ball becomes more challenging. As the saying goes, a single grain of rice can tip the scales of war. For each playstyle, we'll use a team-based first-person shooter comparison where you may not win your chessboard but stall long enough to be victorious as a team. Referring back to the very first concept, Pokers are the snipers, brawlers, machine gunners, and divers, shotgunners. Imagine you're stuck with the wrong weapon into a tough matchup. A brawler mirroring poke. The brawler with a machine gun has a difficulty of playing into the poker with a sniper rifle. Shooting the enemy behind cover not only wastes ammo, but leaves you in the open to get picked off. The correct play is to hide from the sniper behind cover and shoot at the other enemy teammates. As the sniper sees their teammates getting fired upon, it's tempting to take a wider angle further away from cover to shoot you. Only then you can engage the sniper in the open, where you can unload the machine gun with a reasonable chance of winning. In tennis, when it comes to your shot patterns, instead of rip, 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 which is predictable, try rip, rip, slice, rip, or rip, rip, angle, rip. Only after baiting the poker into the open, you can then unload damage as a brawler. In this point, my opponent does a great job baiting me by hitting a shorter ball right there and then unloading the damage afterwards, snowballing the rest of the point. A poker mirroring dive. The poker with a sniper has the challenge of playing into the diver with a shotgun. Backing up and hiding is stalling the inevitable, as the diver will locate, close distance, and engage on their terms. The correct play is to mix in what's called a, quote, counter dive, where the sniper takes the offensive off angle, anticipating the diver's route and lining up the short range scope. While it's still a losing matchup on average, an overly cautious or hesitant diver allows enough time to snipe down enemy teammates and win the game. In tennis, the poker should alternate their position, not just from neutral to defense, but occasionally for offense to counterdive. Instead of sitting back with a pattern like slice, lob, slice, angle, try slice, lob, slice, sneak volley for a bit of a surprise, or slice, lob, slice, inside out forehand, again to keep the diver on their toes. Sometimes your neutral balls will get punished regardless, but what you can do by mixing in offensive positioning occasionally is keep the diver second guessing how long they can stay in neutral. A diver mirroring brawl. The diver with the shotgun has to carefully navigate playing into the brawler with the machine gun. The only viable option is to challenge the brawler at close range, because bullets flying in your direction from mid to long range cause, quote, chip damage. Being weakened prior to engaging the enemy makes the dive very risky. You need to, quote, wear down the brawler, not with your damage, but by prowling around long enough as a distraction so your teammates can inflict, quote, chip damage. A worn down brawler is susceptible to dive at a reasonable success rate. In tennis, the diver should pick their battles of when to brawl to extend the window to finish a bit longer. Instead of lulling the opponent to sleep with medium pace like rally, rally, slice, volley, try rip, rip, slice, volley, or rip, rip, lob, hammer, forehand. This point, I needed to hit some strong rally balls early on to buy enough space to open up that finish, which happened to be a shank. The point here is that subtle changes can make a world of difference, especially when you know what's going on and your opponent is cluelessly allocating resources to the wrong areas. In this 3-game chess match, you might be giving up some pieces, but losing battles is a necessary part to winning the war. As the match progresses, take note of your opponent's strongest and weakest styles, juxtapose them against yours to make small tweaks to that mix, and watch the strategy shift in your favor.